Okay, well, good evening. My name is Craig Blanchett, and I am a optimal health coach, and it is also someone working on my own health journey. Health is something that you do, not something you get. And so each week we show up here at around 6:30 Pacific, and on Tuesday nights, and we're going through Dr. A's Habits of Health. Tonight is chapter 20. Next week will be chapter 19. We're going from the back to the front. And so tonight's lesson is actually called The Best You Can Be, Optimizing Your Life at Any Age. And so this chapter as an overview talks about some things that you can do to optimize and reverse the biological aging process, and some vitamins and minerals and micronutrients that you can be taking and using to actually help you with that aging process. And so what I want to do is I want to toss this out to the gang here. I've got a couple of things that I wanted to that I highlighted that made a big impact on me, and then I'd like us to kind of go through and share one or two highlights of things that stood out from this. And we'll try to finish up here by the top of the hour. So on page 243 of the Habits of Health, that second, what's that called? A paragraph, I think that's what you call those. The second paragraph says, take a look at the illustration below, and it has this illustration where it's the age continuum from 25, 50, 75 to 100 years. And the other metric is from sick to non-sick, and so as we get older, we go from optimal health at the age of 20 down the path of disease. And that is due to our bodies biologically aging faster than they are chronologically aging. And so every day you're going to be a day older. You can't change that. But you can keep your body and your cells and all those things from aging a day, even though technically you're a day older. I don't know about you, but that seems like magic, and it's not. It's actually science and healthy living. It's habits of health. And so it says, the red line represents the lifeline of those who remain passive to the daily insults of our obesogenic world. Their optimal health quickly becomes a state of non-sickness, overweight, elevated inflammation levels, insomnia, which decays to disease over time. Medications may bring about some limited improvement by decreasing the symptoms, but these folks never really regain their health. And that was the big thing to me, is we have this amazing idea about what happens when you get sick. Is you go and you might get a prescription that could take away your symptom, but it didn't really make you healthy, right? And so this book is not a Band-Aid. It's the cure. I don't know it's just so striking to me that this works with your body to renew it, not against your body like a prescription or a drug does, to just kind of pull it in a specific direction with many times negative side effects. This works with and alongside your body as you learn these habits of health. And then that's what I wanted. So on page 244, that third paragraph, understand that nutrients are very different from the medications that today's medical delivery system relies on to treat disease. While medications work rapidly and effectively in acute situations, when a body process needs to be blocked temporarily, they're actually foreign intruders that aren't otherwise present in the body. Think about it. A prescription you're taking is a foreign intruder, whereas nutrients are what your body thrives on. Over the time, most medications become problematic. First, because they interrupt normal body function, and second, because they cause a large number of secondary side effects. So while medications have their uses, creating health is not one of them. Ooh, taking the gloves off, Dr. A. Boom. So anyway, that's the thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit today, the difference between prescriptions and habits of health. And it's easy to take a pill, but with that easy, there's a downside to it. It's not really healthy. Comments? What's a little discussion around that today? Come on, Gigi, you've been smiling at me all night. I know something's resonating with you.
Well, everything that you just read actually did resonate with me when I read it. And it's just so funny because we know it intellectually that medication doesn't cure us, that it really just covers up our symptoms. But we just have this kind of idea that, well, I don't know. It's one of those things where we just, if you don't think about it too much, you're okay with it. But it just, yeah, it really did resonate with me as well.
Think about this, Gigi. Think about this. I don't have to wear my seatbelt because if I get into an accident, they'll be able to patch me back up. Think about that. I don't have to drive safely or be careful because medicine can put me back together. Well,
same thing with weight loss, because so many people I've talked to lately, they want to know how I did it. How did you do this? And I start telling them a little bit about what I did, and they're like, "Oh, so there's just like not a pill or a drink that you just drink?" And it's like, no. And then they don't want to talk about it anymore. But I'm like, but that pill's not going to fix it.
Yeah. I tell people when they ask me that, I said, well, one of the things I realized is I needed to eat more. And they're like, what are you talking about, Willis? I was like, yeah, well, I need to, for those of you that are older, you'll know what that was referring to. But it's like, yeah, I need to eat more often. And believe it or not, I wasn't eating enough, and that's why I wasn't losing weight. And that, to me, is a way to get them to ask that next question. Well, tell me more about that. Well, I needed to drink more, too. Mm-hmm. Like alcohol? Well, no water, but there's water in alcohol. And so I needed to eat more and drink more water. And those are two of the simple things that I'm doing that are getting me this. You want some of this? Right? And to me, we can talk about it in those ways where it intrigues them. And if we don't know those questions, spend some time thinking about it, man. I spent 6 years thinking about the answer to that question, and I'll keep thinking about it.
I think that for me too, it was it's kind of like when we go and we eat something that we know is going to be inflaming to us, and then we wake up in the morning and our face is puffy and our hands are swollen, and we're like, oh yeah, I remember feeling like this every day of my life until I got healthy. This is why I make the choices I make every day. Thanks for the reminder, body. And then you just move on. But it's, for some people, they take a pill, a water pill that makes them not do that, but they're not healthy. And so I really liked that observation.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, the rest of the chapter, my head is swimming.
Yeah, and I too, I picked out one or two things that I'm going to bring out tonight that I think are important, but literally up until I would say 246, when it gets to fish oils, that's the main bulk of this, is getting the idea and understanding of medicine and prescription medicine, like general healthcare practitioners, and the prescriptions that they use aren't the cure-all. And in a Western society, we think that gastric bypass is magic, and doctors talk about it like it's magic, and it's deadly, is what it is. Literally, I think in a few years we're going to look back and go, whoa, yeah, that was some bad advice. We killed some people trying to help them lose some weight when we could have partnered with them. And that's what by the way, I just want you guys to know this. You guys are the life changers. You what we do here is people are going to need habits of health before or after their gastric bypass, right? So the people that have had it, they still need us. Actually, they need us it's probably their life depends on it, actually, post gastric, any type of gastric surgery.
Right now, I have 3 clients over needing to lose more than 120 pounds who have already had the surgery. So I'm learning how to coach those clients because they can't even do a whole lean and green. They have to do it in parts. And so learning how to coach them. But every time I hear somebody go, should I do this? Should I do what you're doing? Or maybe I'll just get the gastric. And I'm just like, no, like, it's like my heart hurts for them. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's like an either, oh, this one seems easier. Yeah, but this one could kill you. Yeah. And does all the time. And this one's never killed anyone.
Well, and I tell them, I say, okay, you could do that and spend all that money and maybe die, or you could just, and then see me, or you could just come with me now and I'll walk with you on this journey that's going to be a struggle, but we can do it together.
Mm-hmm. And so, well, it'll be, but the struggle won't be, think of it, gastric bypass is going to be a struggle to get nutrients in your body for the rest of your life, right? They're going to be on the 5-in-1 for the rest of their lives.
Forever.
Probably, right? Because they're going to have to eat small vitamin fortified meal replacements that are healthy for them. And they probably won't be able to eat too many of the bars because they're too rough. They'll be drinking shakes, probably, or pudding, right? And they're going to be jaundiced and low, like all these things. And so it's like, I had a client one time and she said, yeah, I've lost 120 pounds. I had gastric bypass, and I knew her before she had it was $30,000, by the way.
Yeah.
So how many months of program could that be? I don't know, maybe the rest of their life, just saying. Okay, so that was the first thing. And then she said, I did really good last night, man. I didn't overeat, you know? And she goes, you know, it was weird. All I could eat was like 6 nachos, and that's all I could, I was just full. And she thought that was healthy because it was all portion control, and her stomach could only handle 6 cheese-covered nachos. Well, what about nutrients, folks? Did you know your body needs more than just flavor?
Yeah.
You know, and so I feel my heart goes out to them, and I talk to people regularly that are thinking about doing that, and it's hard to talk them out of thinking that it's going to be a free lunch.
Yeah.
So the ones that we can say, I say, just work with me for 60 days. And if we don't make some changes and you don't see some hope, then you can have the surgery.
Right.
I mean, but let's try something before it. Now, if you go ahead and do it, and I'm still going to be here working on my own health for the rest of my life, and I'd love to partner with you. So even after you have your gastric bypass, if you need some support, I'm here. Right? So either side, that's what we do with everybody. Some people want to do Nutrisystems. I know that eventually that Nutrisystems is going to fail because they're going to go off of it. And there's no after Nutrisystems program developed. There's no support. There's none of this stuff. People that just do the 5-in-1 fail. Only 7% of people that just do the 5-in-1 keep their weight off. 7 to 9%. Do you know Weight Watchers is 14? Weight Watchers is better, right? But our program with the habits of health and the support system and this community, nothing touches it. There's nothing in the world that touches what we do.
So can I share a really quick story, or do you want me just to be quiet?
Well, Mary, you got to introduce us to your dog. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's Bachelor and Nina and my daughter Jacqueline. So
yeah.
So I went to the dentist 6 months ago, and the hygienist is talking to me and in my mouth, and she's telling me stuff, and then she's new, and I'm getting to know her, and I'm just looking at her, and I'm like, oh, she could use me. So I start asking her questions, and just out of the blue, I said, do you have PCOS? Just listening to what she said. And she said, yeah. How'd you know that? And I was like, well, I have it, and I know what you're going through. And I said, and I can help you. And I was totally like stoked about it. And I jumped out of the chair and I gave her my card and I said, we need to be Facebook friends. And I did the Amber Smithson thing. And I said, here's my Facebook, find yourself, friend me. And she did. And she became a client. She'd been married for about 2 years. She didn't ever think she was going to have kids. And don't anybody tell anybody, it's still a secret, but her non-scale victory is she's pregnant. And she didn't have any idea.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. Something that happens when you get married, I don't know. It's all fuzzy to me. But the thing is she was like, I was in her chair just last Wednesday, and she's like, you changed my life. And I was like, and people say that sometimes, after they've been transitioning and they're like, I'm doing good. But I like almost started crying because I thought 6 months, and she keeps telling me, and she texted me the other day, she's like, 6 months ago, look how my life has changed in 6 months. And I just was like, and I'm still having a hard time processing it, but it goes back to Daniela and Kim and Alex and you. And, I struggled as a coach for a while, and I just was like, I'm not helping anybody. But here I was, and this lady's whole life has changed. And so I think what we do here is pretty powerful. And so, our head swims, but at least we're trying. At least we're swimming. At least we're in the water, So.
Well, I have a client, her name is Phyllis. And when things get rough, I think of Phyllis. And so that's your Phyllis. Right? And so when things get rough and people are like, no, I'd rather do this. Oh, it has soy. Oh, I don't like artificial, whatever. Just think of her and say it was worth it, right? For her. And then the first person I look at is me. I do a gut check. And I go, okay, that worked for me. And it worked for Phyllis. 3 years down the road, she's 67 years old. She lost 138 pounds. That was 3 years ago. I called her last week, 118. The week before that, 118. Week before that, 119. Week before that, 118. I mean, we talk twice a month. It's just 118 to 119 every week for 3 years now. And so you pick your Phyllises and decide that you're going to do this because the people that want it to work, it does. And their lives change. So great stuff. And that's the main things I wanted to cover with this chapter here. There was a couple of vitamins that stood out to me. The B complex vitamins, there's 9 different B vitamins. And when you take them individually, they're not nearly as powerful as if you take them in a complex form. So if you do buy a B vitamin, I happen to use a vitamin that's made by Shaklee Company, and I've been using that for 20 years. And they actually, folic acid is one of the folic acid is critical for human fetal development. All women of childbearing should take at least 800 micrograms per day to prevent neural tube malformations and some other magic things. And so Shaklee actually coated their B vitamin with folic acid, so it was the first thing to be dissolved, because it shares a receptor site with another one of the B vitamins that, I don't know how a vitamin is faster, but the other one gets to the receptor site sooner. And so folic acid has a hard time digesting. So they coated the outside of it with folic acid to make it the first thing to go. And so that's why I use the Shaklee vitamin. And then biotin, here's the question. I just gave it the answer. What is the most expensive vitamin to reproduce or to produce? And it is biotin, and it is one of the B's. And so when you look at your B complex, see how much biotin it has. And if it's like 20% and all the others are 2, 3, 4, 500%, it's probably more of a, it's not a balanced one, because they're just trying to make it cheap. So there's a little bit about B vitamins and our biotin. And then amino acids on page 253. Amino acids are the building blocks of our body. I love talking about this one. Maintaining the right balance is important for health. And so what I talk about amino acids is if you think of amino acids like a necklace, right? And so in order to have a necklace that can actually be worn to the ball or the prom or whatever you're going to, you need, I don't know how many colors of beads there are, but let's say there's 5. And so with your amino acids, you have to have all the amino acids in order to create a complete protein. And so you could have 200 blue beads, 5,000 red beads, 1 yellow bead, and 4 million green beads. How many necklaces can you make? 1. Because you need to have all of those. So it doesn't matter how much you have of those other ones. If one of them only has 1, then you can only make, and then there's essential and non-essential. But the main things is the essential amino acids. You need to have all of them. And it's very difficult to get all of the amino acids without a meat-based diet. So a lot of these people that talk about vegan diets, they have a really hard time with making necklaces. So you can quote me on that. Vegans have a hard time with necklaces, and nobody will know what you're talking about except you guys. So anyway, so that's one of the big challenges, and meat just solves it. And then, of course, on page 255, fiber. Fiber is one of the things that most people just don't talk much about. And fiber creates fullness and satiety, and it also makes your body work to process it, which takes fuel. And so that's why you can subtract 1 gram of carb, which is fuel, for 1 gram of protein, because it takes 1 gram of fuel to process 1 gram of fiber. Gigi, you're muted. If you were going to say something. No, okay. So anyway, there's just a couple things to think about. You got some probiotics in here. You know, this is kind of a chapter that you may want to come back and look at from time to time. Once a year, we'll take a little tour down chapter 20. Next week, we are going to be studying chapter 19, because I can count backwards. And I believe 19 is on inflammation, if my memory serves me properly. Yeah, dousing the flame of inflammation. And so you may actually quiz yourself. Like, there's a few chapters in the book that are go-tos. 17, sleep. 18, support. 19, inflammation, right? 21, the fulfillment or the coaching awakening chapter, right? So you can find your different chapters. Chapter 5 is the health quiz. And so anyway, you might have a couple of go-tos that come up regularly that you can go to, and that way you can refer those to your clients when it's relevant. So instead of just saying, did you read some of the book? It's like, did you go to the library and read a book? No. Hey, why don't you go and get green eggs and ham and read it this week? Give them something specific to do, and they might do it. So, all right, that's going to conclude this portion of our training. I'm going to stop the video, and we'll be right back for the coaches training. So don't go anywhere.